If you ever listened back to your microphone and thought, why doesn't my voice sound as good as the other creators, especially when it's the same microphone? Well, the truth is, one, most microphones don't really sound amazing out of box, even expensive XLR microphones. And two, the secret isn't usually the microphone itself, it's the proper setup. So today I'm going to show you how I take virtually any XLR microphone and dramatically improve the sound by utilizing Elgato's Wave XLR MK.2 and the Wave Link. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete audio chain you can use for your streaming, your content creation, your podcasting, your voiceovers, you name it. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, the mic I'm using in my example is the Maono PM320S condenser microphone. It requires 48 volts. And it's just a random microphone I found sitting in my closet, and I said,
hey, what microphone can I use to do the testing with?
So this is the sound of it out of box, no compressor, no limiter, no anything going really, just reduce the gain because it's super loud. Now, let's build a professional audio chain from scratch. Mic placement matters more than you think. So before touching a single setup, we need to fix the biggest mistake that creators make, and that's microphone placement. Right now I have a pretty decent placement because it's off axis and not directly in the line of my plosives and my spit. What? A lot of people make the mistake of having their microphone right here, and you get that awesome bouncing off the wall reverb unless your room is super treated. The other mistake is having your microphone directly in the line of your mouth, because you will pick up lots of plosives, especially with a sensitive condenser microphone like this. So why would you need to be this close unless you're doing some ASMR? Why? Or they make the mistake of having their microphone off axis like this, too far off to the side of their face with their capsule pointing behind them practically, or to the back of their head. Not good either, because now you're kind of talking away from the mic. And then they wonder why their audio sounds so thin, boomy, distorted, or even getting reverb. The recommended positioning I recommend to you is about 6 to 8 inches away. I like to use the pinky to thumb ratio, or rule of thumb, where you can just put your thumb like on your lip and then stick your pinky out. Don't even stretch it out so far. You can just kind of just keep it casual. And you might want to be about that much distance, which is roughly 6 to 8 inches, unless you got extra long fingers or stumpy fingers where you like this. This helps reduce plosives, or your breaths into the capsule, harsh S's, sibilants, and all while helping you to maintain some good clarity and detail in your audio. Now let's set gain. A common mistake is running too much gain. People see their levels a little bit too low and they want to crank that gain up. And that can introduce unnecessary noise and clipping and distortion, all the things you kind of don't want in your audio. So what you want to do is speak your normal volume, not your YouTube voice, your screaming, yelling voice at your kids and your dog, just your normal voice, and set the gain to these levels I'm about to show you right now. Now you want to get your audio levels between -18 and -12, especially when your voice or your mic is positioned properly. So right here is probably about right. So this is pretty good from this distance between 18 and 12, -18, -12 dB. And your peaking should be at 6. So right now my peaking is going a little higher. Sometimes I get a little ramped up in my audio. Anything past -6, you start getting distortion and probably too close to clipping. And then if you start going louder, see, I'm already too loud. So I probably would want to dial that down a bit, right? -27 dB, maybe I can go down to 24 dB. It sounds okay in my ears from this distance. And then right here at my normal speaking voice at the pinky thumb distance, 6 to 8 inches, which is pretty decent. I think I'm getting pretty good audio. And if I decide to speak up a little louder, I will tap that -6 dB, as you can see right there. And my normal speaking voice is falling between -18 and -12. And that's kind of where you want it to be, your lows and your peaks. So be very mindful of that. You have enough headroom with this kind of setup. Now, the beautiful thing with the Wave XLR MK.2 is that there's an auto gain feature. That's right. You could utilize it with the button on the hardware itself, the interface, by holding it down for several seconds, like 4 or 5 seconds, and it'll go into initiating an auto gain setup. So we can do it manually the way I showed you and adjusting it between those particular levels of gain, 12, -12, -18, or we can see what the Wave XLR MK.2 can do here. Now there is a auto gain set up here you see on your top right. We can just press that button, which is the same as holding down the button on the Wave XLR mixer, and it's going to go into setting up auto gain. So get your distance, your proximity, your direction of your microphone pointing, and just start talking naturally. So let's click that button, and right here it gives you all the instructions what it's going to do. So it takes about 10 seconds. So here we go. So today we are going to fine tune this particular Maono microphone that I found randomly in my closet. Probably no one in the world knows what this is, and make it sound proficient. What? It actually boosted me up to 31 dB. So it's telling me I need about that much. So from this distance at my normal talking voice. So it boosted it up just a bit, but is it too much? Let's click done here, and we're going to go over and see what our levels are. So we're pretty high up here with our gain, right? And if we look at OBS, right, if I can grab it and bring it up, you'll see that as I'm talking normally, pinky to thumb rule here, touching the microphone, it's about 6 to 8 inches away, and talking in my normal voice, it is going beyond peaking, the -6 that I suggested. So maybe it's just a little too high, but if I'm talking normally like this and I just like throughout the whole video, it's perfectly fine. And I think it's too high because you saw when I raised my voice just a bit, I went all the way up into the red. So maybe I can dial that down just a bit here. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Gave me a little too much gain for this super sensitive microphone. So we're going to bring it back down to about 27, which I thought was pretty good. All right, let's leave it there. From your gain, you want to jump over to ClipGuard 2.0. This is one of my favorite features. So now if you feel like you're going to get loud in your audio and have these loud outbursts because you're screaming in game or at your dog, at your wife, your kids, whoever, what, you might want to turn this on, because what it's going to do is going to protect it from clipping or getting too loud before it reaches your final signal or output or your computer. So this happens on board, basically on the MK.2. Thanks to their Wave FX processor, a lot of these effects, most of all of these, are done on board. Fantastic device. If you want to know more about that, check links in the description. I did a full breakdown of this whole ecosystem by Elgato. What I want to do is pick the pack up. You hear that distortion just blowing directly into it? Severe clipping and noise. But once you turn that on, now ClipGuard is on. Peter Piper picked a pack of Pepsis, popped them, poured them into a pitcher profusely. Do you hear that? It's preventing it from clipping, although I am still going all the way up into the red. It won't clip. No matter what you do, it's make it virtually impossible for you to clip with ClipGuard. So with ClipGuard, turn it on, leave it on. Okay, let's move on to the next thing, which I think is pretty fantastic. You might want to do this before you actually jump into setting up your EQ, and that is voice focus or AI acoustics. Now, this is basically a noise reduction feature or setting, as well as reducing reverb or echo in your room, because there's some times where you kind of step back a little bit and you'll get that echo off your table, off your wall, off your monitor, and you don't have any foam or anything to absorb any of those echoes. This right here is going to help you with that. So this is the sound right now without it on. Probably getting some noise and some echo in my room, right? But once I turn that on, I hear some noise. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit higher. Maybe like right here. You don't want to turn this all the way up, because then you might start sounding robotic and overly processed. Now, this is an AI feature, and for those of you who don't trust AI things or AI features, a lot of times I don't. This one seems to work really fantastic. Yes. So as you notice, the noise in my room is gone. There's a little bit of delay because I'm not direct monitoring. You have an option to direct monitor as well as not directly monitor. So if I turn it on, it's in real time, no matter what processing stuff I do here. So it's not going to affect anything. And all of those effects that I make is going to only affect my final output, which you guys will hear at the end tail. But when I turn it off, no noise. Not only that, but my voice sounds pretty in focus, right? It's not making me sound distorted and is not cutting anything off at the initial phase when I start talking or at the tail end. So pretty good. And even if I step back a bit, you notice that it won't introduce that reverb at all. I might sound a little bit lower, and it's getting that audio to sound pretty good no matter which way I kind of focus and turn. Maybe right here, I can get some reverb talking away. I hear just slightly, but if you're right here and you step back beyond the 6 to 8 inch rule, it's still going to kill off that echoing that you get in your room. So it gives you a little bit more breathing room. It sounds fantastic here, a little bit sibilance. So we're going to get into it. Microphone's a little bit muffled. It doesn't sound that great right now, but we're going to improve it. Okay, so we're going to turn that on. Now we have AI acoustics up and in effect and going. What do you think about that? Right now, let me know in the comments before I continue. Go. Now, let's get into EQ. Now, the EQ on this isn't so fantastic, but it will allow us to remove unwanted frequencies and kind of dial in the audio more specifically the way we want it to sound. Okay, so as we come over to our effects here in our software, the Wavelink, we want to just enable low cut filter. Get rid of all of those low ends, anything that is below 80 to 100 hertz. Right, so just turn that on, get rid of low end rumble that happens as an effect of probably hitting your table or just your fans or bassy things, super bassy things that go below the spectrum of your voice, which you don't need in your audio. No need for any of that. Then from there, we're going to go over to our equalizer and just turn that on. Now, there is a little sign here we can click to open it up. And as you can see, we have some settings here. You can turn it off and turn it on. I don't know what these settings were. This is probably from what I said it before. So let's go ahead and reset this guy. So low cut is already turned on, right? So we're going to want to keep that anything from here to here. Just get rid of that, not too much, because then you start sounding a little bit weird. So let's cut off anything all the way up to about right here to get a good riddance to that low end audio. Let's work on our mid-tone, right? Because sometimes this is where you get muddiness. Now let's go ahead and see if we need more bass. Maybe we can bump it up just a little bit, see what that sounds like. Go all the way up. Can get pretty bassy, boomy, but it introduces a lot of hum. So not too much, and you don't want to go too low because you can if you just want to get rid of all of that low end. But I like to have a little bit of a bass in my voice. Then mid-tone. This is where the things can get muddy and boxy, right? So we can either choose to introduce to bring it up higher like such, right? And you can get some crispiness out of it, but it can get boxy if you go over too far. So you kind of just want to stay right here. I'm glad they gave you this little space here. It lets you know where the kind of the box region exists. So maybe we want to bring that down just a bit to get rid of some of that boxiness that can happen in your audio. Now, we do have this set as a low shelf. You can actually right click and change any of these settings from low shelf, high pass, low pass, all of the EQ band setting stuff that you can do. So you can introduce some highs right here to make it sound pretty crispy if you wanted a crispy microphone for ASMR sexiness. What? But there's just a lot of sibilance happening here. So what I use is a high shelf because sometimes I don't want to get rid of all of that air, right? We want to kind of keep it because then it gets a little bit of dark and muddy. So let's go ahead and bring in some brightness here, right? And if you feel like the sibilance is just too much, sometimes condenser mics can do that. You can turn it to a low pass like that and get rid of anything beyond a specific frequency right here. So you can kill off all of that. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The sibilance is not so bad. So I could keep it like that flat to keep the airiness in it. And bring up a little bit more brightness in my voice over here in these spectrums to get more vocal clarity. And if I wanted to get some more heavy bass in here, I can definitely come over to the low end like that and bring in some low end. And I think it sounds okay right here. I can get away with something like this. A little bit too much bass, actually. Bring that down a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, these are just general rules, right? For the most part, it's kind of the areas you want to kind of tackle. You want to make sure you get a good level of bass. Your mid-tone wants to be kind of in control. You want to cut down that boxiness if you want to cut down boxiness here in the mid area, right? And then bring up a little bit of brightness if you need brightness in your voice or in the mic, right? You can definitely just boost up this spectrum here and get some brightness in it if you feel like it needs brightness. And it sounds okay, a little bit of airiness, but I'm getting more sibilance. So I probably would just kind of cut it down just a bit to keep it down. What's cool about this app is down at the bottom, you can do a quick recording to sample and then stop. What's cool about this app is down at the bottom, you can do a quick recording to sample and then now when you're playing back the sound check, it's going to loop. And as it's looping, you can continue to mess around and dial in all of your effects and your EQ settings, and you will hear it in real time as you're making the adjustments. So that way you don't have to like kind of keep talking or doing something else, where you can just kind of loop that audio back. And once you dial in that audio, that's what your mic is going to sound like. So that's a fantastic feature. I really like that. And I use that a lot for dialing in my audio settings. Okay. Now, if you really wanted to bring in some nice crispiness in your audio like such, and just bring up those highs to get that nice high end and a little bit more airiness in your audio like such, and you're worried a little bit about sibilance, well, in the marketplace, the Elgato marketplace, there is something you can install, a plugin, and it is the Elgato de-esser. Yes, so I have set up an Elgato de-esser, and I can just turn that on, and it helps with the sibilance just a bit, right? And you can just Caesar ate a salad by the seashore in a sauna. Let's start over, and we're gonna test our sibilance, and I can hear some S's in it. So let's go ahead and run a de-esser, smooth and sharp sounds. Caesar ate a salad by the seashore with Susan in a sauna. I'm going to use as much S's as I can with Superman. Oh, that did a nice job at cutting off some of that sibilance. Pretty good. Wow. Not bad. So you have this auto tuning de-esser, and if you really wanted to go into the settings and customize it even more, right? Sizzling S, you can go here and try to chop that down just a little bit and get rid of that squeakiness that you get from your S's and sibilance. So now I can keep kind of an airy sound, right? Nice bright highs, or a little bit higher than it was initially, at least out of box. It was pretty muddy. Now it's a bit more open and a little bit more airy, and nice vocal presence. Sounds pretty good. Let me know what you think of this audio so far in the comments. Okay, now compression. Compression makes quiet parts of your audio louder and lower parts higher. So basically this kind of like equals out or evens out your sound settings so that everything kind of sounds normalized in a sense, right? So if you talk too low, it'll boost up those lows. And if you talk too high, it'll just kind of keep that suppressed. So it's not exactly a limiter. A limiter doesn't do that. It just stops and cuts off those highs. So let's jump into compressor right here, and we can just flick it on. And right now this is with it on. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna cut off compressor. I'm gonna talk low, and this is how my audio sounds when I'm talking low with the compressor on. And I don't know how it's gonna sound if I turn it on. See, if I turn that on, it boosts up that low end because I'm really talking low. And if I turn it off, you see the low ends go a little bit lower, and I turn it back on, it goes back up. So far, I have it already set up the way I wanted it to. And you can add in some makeup gain here, which I did do because sometimes the gain can kind of get lost a little bit. Maybe not so much makeup gain, maybe just a bit. 5 dB of makeup gain, I think is good. So if I decide to talk too loud, you'll see that ClipGuard is working and compression is working to keep everything straight down the middle in your ear hole. So I can't clip it. I can't talk too low where it's not going to pick up and I start whispering. So it's going to bring that up. Anything I start saying. So that's going to give it a gain lift. Now we are getting somewhere with our audio. We're normalized. We're being conscious of our pinky and thumb distance, right? And this is our normal talking audio with it pointing towards the side of my mouth. So it's not going to capture none of my plosives. Peter Papa picked a pack of Pepsis, popped them, poured them into a pitcher. It's not going to clip because ClipGuard 2.0. It's not going to lose my low audio because of compression. So you kind of see how things are starting to work a little bit. The little nuances, you can't tell. You think that's just how mics sound out of box. You hear other creators and you could be deceived. On the back end, they're going to have lots of these things running with their audio. So don't be fooled. Even with me, all of my videos in the past, a lot of them is running with similar functions. Well, not this, because I just started using this not so long ago. Voice tune. Yes. So voice tune is doing a couple things, right? It adds analog style compression and gentle harmonic warmth, right? So I find once you dial in everything else you got going on here, you really don't need the voice tune so much, right? But it's there, and you can hear what it's going to do to my audio right here. As I'm going to lift it up a little bit, it's going to sound like it's boosting up my gain. So it's doing some compression activities. So we already said compressor. So I feel like some of it is redundant. So you're getting like a little bit of a gain boost, and you're getting a little bit more warmth in that midtone, which sounds pretty good, right? So let's turn voice tune on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and turn compression off. So if I talk low, is it going to do the same thing as what compression does? Let's see. I'm going to talk low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep. So it's lifting up. It's doing a little bit of that compression, same compression feature, and bringing up those low ends to really tune your audio. Will it keep those highs down? Yes. Well, it's not really doing that. It's probably the ClipGuard 2.0. So it's sounding pretty good right here. You can dial in as much as you like and get enough warmth and pickup. So if I sit back, you see how much I went beyond the 8 inches. Now I'm at like 10 inches away. I'm also not getting any reverb or echo in my room, and my lows are pretty high, but I do hear a little bit of processing happening. I can hear the processed audio a little bit. So I would probably not use as much voice tune, right? Maybe somewhere around the 32. Test with the low voice. When you know your low voice is just picked up just enough from this angle, you know you're good. So I think like right here is pretty good. So you can use voice tune in conjunction with voice AI acoustics, right? The voice focus, and you can sound good. I feel like you don't need both this and compressor running. It's double the compression. So I would keep the compressor off and use voice tune. So some of these things overlap, as you probably noticed by now. Or you can get a slightly better microphone and do something very similar with the Fifine AM8 and get yourself to sound fantastic with the Elgato Mark II and Fifine devices, which the Fifine is a very popular device. And well, I don't have to be hugging my Fifine microphone anymore. I got all of these settings going: low cut, expander, compressor, equalizer, voice focus, the esser to get rid of the sibilants. Peter Piper picked a pack of Pepsis. I got a ClipGuard going so I can't clip it. So you can get some really good audio sounding here with your Fifine AM8. For all my Fifine AM8 lovers, they know this is probably one of the budget kings out here on the market. And that's how I would set up virtually any XLR microphone utilizing the Wave XLR MK.2 and the Wavelink application. Now, remember, microphones is only one part of the equation. The quality of microphone, it depends on mic placement, EQ, clean processing, that sort of stuff. Even your environment can make a difference, or utilizing the Wavelink, it can succumb or surpass all of those things and not have to worry about mic placement so much, because it can pick you up. You don't have to worry about reverb, because the voice acoustics or the AI acoustics kind of can kill off a lot of that reverb, noise suppression, you name it. Wavelength kind of does all of it. And very basic, right? A lot of it is just sliders and tickers and switches. Nothing to get lost in. Even setting up your auto gain is all like automatic. There's not a lot going on. It sounds good, and I can rock with this and go forward and be a content creator and sound professional enough on a budget. I don't know, this microphone was like 20 bucks, 30 bucks maybe. You can take a cheap microphone, XLR microphone like this of any kind, and enhance it with something like the Wave XLR MK.2 and Wavelink. It's another option outside of how I showed you in my previous video with the Fifine Genie, and which it kind of depends on the SC8 for access to the Fifine Genie, all those features that's into it. Same thing with the Mark II, the Wave XLR MK.2 and Wavelink. You kind of need one of these Wave FX devices to take full advantage of all of the effects and EQ options and the features built into Wavelink application. So yeah, that's just something to consider. So Me, I would recommend going with something like the Wave XLR. More affordable than having to get something like the Wave XLR Pro, which it's a big dent in your pocket. So Wave XLR, then you get any XLR pickup, the mic you got holding your couch up because you lost a leg, and put it back on your table, plug it into the Wave XLR Mark II, and make it sound like a professional mic again. Well, for the first time. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, hype this video up, let other people know that you can take a cheap microphone and make it sound fantastic to anybody's ear holes, right? All right. With that, I'll see you in the next video. Later.